coming in at number 87, we have Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver Chris Godwin. And I can already feel the hate, all the negative comments, all the dislikes coming in with this one. But here's the thing, right? This is not a 2019 top performers list. Don't get it twisted. If it was, Godwin would be he'd be really at the minimum in the 30s, 20s, if not the teens, right? He had a wonderful year last year in terms of just pure statistics, in terms of, he was probably the number one breakout player in the entire NFL, right? But that's not what this list is. If you guys want to hear me go in depth on my criteria and kind of the lens that I'm looking at this series through, go check out the introduction video in the description below. I'll make sure to link it for you guys because I don't want you to think that this is me disrespecting Godwin in any way. But what I also am not going to do is disrespect the guys who we've seen do really almost the same level of production for much longer and for a sustained period of time in much more difficult situations. And that's what I'm trying to take into account here, because Godwin, no offense to Chris, I can't take away from what he did, but I can add context to it, right? And here's the reality of the situation. He had Mike Evans opposite of him, right? He rarely went up against number one cornerbacks, was almost devoid of them as a whole. And then oftentimes he was lined up in the slot, so now he's going up against sometimes, or the zone coverage especially, across the middle, linebackers and safeties. He very rarely was lined up against teams' top defenders, right, just in terms of coverage defenders. And did he exploit that? Yes. Can I take away from him? No. But can I act like the Keenan Allens and Amari Coopers and Stephon Diggs and, if we keep going higher, the Odell Beckhams, Julio Jones, all those guys, can we act like they wouldn't have put up equal, if not better numbers in this same situation? No. And can we act like Godwin, if put in their situation, would just automatically have equal or better numbers than them? I don't think so at all. So that's why Godwin is here where he is. I talked about it in the intro video, but there are 196 people that I seriously was considering for this list. For Godwin to be 87, that's not. I don't really think that's highly disrespectful at all. If anything, he should be happy that 3 years in, he's already number 87. And first things first, in terms of what makes Godwin so special, how has he been able to amass 2,175 yards over his last 216 targets? Because that's wildly impressive for a third-year player to be able to do in his second and third season. Well, I think that one big factor is his ability just to concentrate on the football and secure these catches, right? A lot of young and rookie wide receivers, really the biggest struggle for them is the noise, right? Just not the literal noise, but the fact that, okay, here's Godwin trying to make a play in the end zone, and he sees out of the corner of his eye Kendall Sheffield, the Falcons defender, beating down on him. And Godwin knows that he's about to get hit, but here's the thing. He's not scared of contact. He's kind of fearless at that catch point, and he's just able to focus on and concentrate on hauling in this poorly thrown ball by Jameis Winston. It's just stuff like this that Godwin's doing on a regular basis that really sets him apart from a lot of other young wide receivers who maybe talent-wise are in a similar spot to Godwin, but I don't think that they're able to kind of mentally hone their skills as well as Godwin. And here's another really good example. This time it's him going up against the Arizona Cardinals, and we just watch him on this route up the seam, how easily he makes this look despite being surrounded by these Cardinals red jerseys. Obviously, you have Jordan Hicks beating down on you. You have Budda Baker beating down on you. And you have another safety coming over the top. And Godwin is, as I said, unlike a lot of young receivers, he's able to just ignore all that and really just sacrifice his body to concentrate on and focus on catching this football. And as a result, he's able to just haul in the catch and then bounce off a defender, make another one miss, and turn what probably should have been an incompletion for most young guys into really a massive game. And here's another really good example. This time it's going up against the Saints, where it's just a poorly thrown ball by Jameis, but Godwin's able to turn his body, contort his body, and make a nice play on it. And it's plays like these that lead Godwin to a 71.1 catch percentage, and then we don't even need to talk about what happens after the catch. He puts on the Jets. And obviously we're going to talk about that in a little bit, what he's able to do after the catch. But he's special there, but you can't get to after the catch unless you secure the ball at that catch point. And that's exactly what Godwin does, as you see. Like that's such a hard ball to come up with, especially for, even though Godwin is not the biggest guy in the world, like that ball's thrown at his kneecaps, and he's still able to go down there, dig it out, and then again turn from receiver to runner and make plays with his feet on the ground. And I called this one contested catches, but it's really just an extension and kind of combination of the last two, because again, he's just so special in these, kind of catching traffic situations. And what you're going to see here is him go out on what appears to have supposed to have been a post, but he gets kind of thrown off it by Vic Beasley a little bit at the line of scrimmage. Well, regardless, he doesn't create that much separation with his route running, but he's able to still just make the catch with Deion Jones draped all over him, and and then with that safety beating down on him. It's just plays like these where you turn something out of absolutely nothing, because I would say for probably 95% of the league, this play is just an uncatchable ball for most guys, first of all. But Godwin's able to go across the middle again. He's fearless with a safety beating down on him, a linebacker draped all over him, still make a beautiful play. And that's why I say, even though a lot of his snaps are from the slot, I can't discount him for that, because even though that's against a linebacker and a safety opposed to a number one cornerback, it's still a beautiful play. And it's one of the things that makes Godwin so special. And even though kind of that last play might not have been the best one to transition into route running off of, it's one of Godwin's biggest strengths. I see on this play is just some really nice stuff by Godwin, where he basically manipulates the Saints zone coverage against them, because what he's going to see here is that it appears to be a cover 3 shell. He knows that this safety is going deep, and he knows that they only have one defender for the flats, right? Well, what I want you to pay attention to is how Godwin is able to, as he's engaging with this safety here, before he cuts across the middle on his in, how he takes kind of a quick jab step to the right, and then the defender, you can see how he reacts. He reacts as if he thinks Godwin's going out, and he kind of pushes him out as if he's passing him off to the next zone defender. Well, what the safety doesn't know is that Scotty Miller is actually going deep, so he's not passing him to anybody. Godwin's actually coming back across the middle. That deep safety is held up by Miller, and as a result, Godwin gets open across the middle for a really nice and easy touchdown. But just that route running that kind of lets him take a quick jab step out to the right before coming back in left. And it's just that knowledge of, okay, this is zone coverage, how should I attack this, that makes Godwin so special. Because, again, just look at how that defender, Godwin has not left his zone, but Chris Godwin makes him mentally think that he left his zone based on that jab step right. And, the defender thinks that Godwin's cutting out this way. Godwin actually just sneaks in behind him, and at that point, it's too late, because, as I said, this deep safety has to respect Scotty Miller coming across the top, and then Godwin's able to just make a beautiful catch and run in for the easy touchdown. But it's plays like these where Godwin made the most of it because of his ability to manipulate defenders with his routes. And here's another really good example where Godwin's going up against the Falcons' Kendall Sheffield again, and he just runs a really nice route where what you're going to see is eventually it's going to be a corner route. Look at how Godwin initially on his route stem starts to take it over the middle a little bit, and then he straightens it out once he kind of gets that outside release on Sheffield. And at this point, he knows that he kind of has Sheffield at his mercy, right? So what does Godwin do before he breaks this route outside? He takes one really hard step inside, and watch what that does to Sheffield's hips. It forces him to kind of widen him out and open him up, because he thinks that play is going across the middle. Well, what does Godwin do? Once he knows he's past the sticks, he puts a foot in the ground, breaks outside, and just creates a ton of separation, and is able to haul in a really nice pass for a first down. But again, it's plays like that where, do you want to necessarily be running a corner route into man coverage? Probably not. But when you're going to run it this crisp and this well and create that much separation, as Godwin does, yeah, you could run that route all day. Lastly, we have Godwin's yak ability. And, you want to talk about the biggest step that he took from 2018 to 2019. I don't have the numbers offhand, but I know this past season he averaged 7.1 yards after the catch on all of his total routes, which was fourth in the league behind A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel, and John Ross, right? So that's incredibly impressive. But then you contrast that to 2018, he was between 4 and 5 yards per catch after the reception. I can't remember the exact number, but that's where the massive step forward took place, right? So what exactly does Godwin do so well after the catch? Well, again, it's just his ability to, again, you see that little bit of separation created. Well, then he hauls it in, and then he just runs with so much contact balance. And we talked about it with Leonard Fournette, a running back, his ability to just absorb those blows like he's a punching bag, and just kind of always keep resetting to that standard position. Well, that's Godwin. Look at how he forces a missed arm tackle, forces another one, fights through another one, and then finally a last defender. That's 4 missed tackles, and you often don't see that out of a wide receiver, but it's one thing that has really set Godwin apart so early in his career. And here's another example. This time, it's not as impressive just in terms of the sheer yards that he gets, but look at how he's just willing to put his shoulder down and make a play and force himself into the end zone. What you're going to see, obviously, is a little bit of a pick play being ran here by Bruce Arians and this Buccaneers offense, in which they wait to snap the ball until the cornerback and safety are just about to collide, and that kind of is what allows Godwin open. Well, even though he's open, he still has to get in the end zone, right? Well, look at just Godwin's kind of hard-nosed physicality to not to really refuse to be denied a touchdown on this play. And it's just stuff like this that, when people think of, diva wide receivers, they're not seeing guys put their shoulders down and truck over defensive backs. Well, that's what Chris Godwin is willing to do and frequently does. And, again, it's plays like this where he turns a pass from behind the line of scrimmage into 6 points. And, there's not a lot of guys who are doing this on a consistent basis, but Godwin is. And this last play by Godwin here, it's pretty unspectacular, if I'm being completely honest, but there's almost beauty in the insignificance of it to me because, what you have here is Buccaneers Lions. It's week 15. Tampa Bay, they're out of playoff contention. Detroit, they were never really in playoff contention. But what does that mean to Chris Godwin? It really doesn't mean much at all because ultimately it's another snap, another football game where, he's on the field. And what does that mean? It means that he's going to constantly be trying to do whatever he can to give his team a chance to win. It's another rep for him to hone his craft, continue to get better, and improve. And that's what you're going to see here. It's a simple hitch route. Initially, he kind of made me mad because, why not drive that to the sticks when Tracy Walker's giving you such a big cushion? But it's okay, it's 1st and 10. The man, he averages 7.1 yards after the catch on each play anyway. So what does he do? He makes a nice little catch with his hands, turns to the open field, busts out the stiff arm, sends Tracy Walker on a journey to the center of the earth, and just continues to fight for extra yards until 3 guys ultimately have to kind of gang tackle him. And, one thing that my coach always talks about is that good football players, they make the ordinary plays at an extraordinary level. And, that's what I loved about watching Godwin on film. It wasn't like he was having a bunch of crazy highlight plays, but just plays like these where he's taking an underneath route and, what simple 8-yard route, and he's getting what, 15, 20 yards out of it. And it just plays like these. Even though it's a meaningless game, Godwin's constantly giving effort and constantly always trying to help his team win. So my kind of question then is, if right now I think Godwin's the 87th best player and he's making effort plays like these in relatively meaningless games, how much better can he get when now next year every game is going to be crazy meaningful? You bring in Tom Brady, you bring in Gronk, you bring in a couple additions on that defense. How much better can Chris Godwin get? I'm excited to find out because honestly, if you're bringing this kind of effort to meaningless games, I can't wait to see what you bring to meaningful games in late December, January, and potentially February. You never know with this team, and I just can't wait to see the steps that Godwin continues to make as he hopefully builds on 2019 here in 2020. And as always, if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, make sure to leave a comment. Just tell me, what are your thoughts on Godwin? If you still believe that he should have been higher on the list, tell me why. What makes you so confident that if you put him in Cleveland right now instead of Odell Beckham, that the Browns would be a substantially better team? Or if you put him in Dallas, that he would be more productive than Amari Cooper? Or in LA, that he'd be better than Keenan Allen? What makes you so confident that he would be able to kind of dominate number 1 cornerbacks at the same rate that he's able to dominate number 2s? Because we've seen it multiple times where you have Juju and Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown goes away. Juju has to go up against those number 1s. His stats kind of regress. And it's not that he's a bad player by any means, and I don't think Godwin is either, but I just have to consider that regression is possible because, it is possible that his stats are just being inflated by that number 1 receiver. And, you have the same thing. We saw it in Denver a couple years ago. You have Emmanuel Sanders and Demarius Thomas. Well, then what happens? Eric Decker, his stats go through the roof. And, was Eric Decker at any point a top 100 player? Probably not. But if you just look at his statistical production, he had seasons where he definitely would have been. So were those years inflated by the supporting cast? Absolutely. And do I think that could be the case with Godwin? Yes. And, I don't have those same concerns about guys like Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody else, all the receivers I have above him on the list, and that's why I put him here. So, if you guys still disagree, let me know just what makes him better than those guys, in your opinion, because I personally, I don't really see it. I see a guy who had a fantastic breakout year and could definitely prove himself with more consistency, but being only a third-year guy going into his 4th year, I just don't think he's there yet. And last but not least, if you guys enjoyed the video and are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. I have not only the previous 13 of these that I posted, but we have another 86 more kind of coming down the pipeline. So I'm having a lot of fun making this series. I hope you guys are enjoying them as well. So with that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. I'm going to have another video coming out later this afternoon, so stay tuned for that. But, for the time being, I'm mic'd up. Now I'm mic'ing out. Peace, guys.